Does anyone have any questions about, first of all, what we did today?
So,
Yeah.
so the series starts with front headlock. How high in your priority list is front headlock now, according to like when you engage somebody? Do you want front headlock, or is front headlock an incidental piece in a larger system?
It will become more of an instrumental piece. It's like I use it a lot in the gym because everyone's good at scrimmaging.
Yeah.
But in competition, most of the guys like don't really wrestle well yet, so they just I just take them down and they just never get back up. So it's always chest to chest pins or chest to back pins with the back. But as guys start to get better at scrimmaging, you'll see it a lot more.
And that's like they're getting better at heisting hips, they're keeping their height better, they're turning into you.
They just don't accept takedowns.
Yeah.
Like most of the guys that I put down, like I just put them down and they just stop moving.
Yeah.
Because most guys, what they do is what we call a bolt-on method, where you just take like a Division I wrestler or guys good at wrestling, they come in, they do the camp, and they kind of teach them single leg, double legs, and wrestling stuff, and they kind of just bolt that on to what they already have. But in wrestling, when a takedown happens, or in judo, when a takedown happens, the action stops.
Yeah.
In our sport, the action starts when you hit the ground. Like now it's three count before you get scored on. So it's very different insofar as what the rules and the scoring criteria and everything is. So once guys start to get better at scrimmaging, they'll stop accepting the takedowns, and you'll end up doing a lot more attacking from turtle and a lot more attacking from front headlock.
I've noticed that as well. Thank you very much for all this.
Yeah, so how are you initializing that setup? Are you mainly looking for, I'm from bottom actually, like are you looking for a hip heist to get to that primarily, or is there something else?
Hip heisting, you're saying?
What's that?
You're saying if he's hip heisting?
If I'm in guard and to pull that, to start that series, am I primarily looking to do a hip heist to get him?
Oh yeah, hip heist from guard, yeah. Hip heist is the main one. From standing, obviously it's snap down.
Right.
Or a lot of times takedowns, the guy goes to take the guy down, he goes to turtle, he goes to move away, and then as you're scrimmaging, you end up snapping the head and then the front headlock. But if you're just playing guard, snaps to front head will usually be the main thing. Or failed sumigashi, where I put the head down, and then as the sumigashi fails, I use that to heist up. Yeah.
On your last YouTube video, Roku, you did a Q&A where you talked about the knee lever. And the guy bases out hard, where I know you're saying to drop to your other hip to get it to go. Sometimes I can't budge the guy. Do you bail on the knee lever and come up, or do something else, or can you still?
So the only way that the knee lever wouldn't work is if you have your mechanics right, is if his head is on the wrong side of the center line. So if I'm trying to knee lever this way and his head's on this side of the center line and the mechanics are right, you should always be able to move him or get his knee to come off the floor. If you feel that you can't do that because his head is on this side of the center line, then you have to go to something else. Usually, as he goes to move his head to stop the knee lever, I'll pummel my forearm back to the inside and then use that to get across shoulder post and then fight to the inside. Where's Mike? So let's say from here, the guy has the top head and arm, for example, on half guard, and I try to go into a knee lever, and he realizes the knee lever is coming, and as I go to do it, he takes his head and he moves it across to the other side, this side. So he goes here, right? So now the knee lever from here will always work. If he puts his head on the other side, now there's too much body weight on that side. So if I see that he realizes this is coming and he goes to move his head, then I take this inside. And then I start working my elbow back to the inside, and then I start going into my counter offense from there. So you time his head movement.
Do you only knee lever if you're chest to chest, or can it be?
No, you can do it. You can do it from here. Like if I'm here, like a lot of times what I like to do is I play right from this position, and I just take a grip on the guy's hand. Like I just go here, and I allow him to think he's gonna come forward chest to chest. And as he does, we go knee lever. Or from like a reverse De La Riva situation. Like if he's in a split squat and we're here and he's down low, what I'll do from here is I'll just move us back and I'll put my foot ankle to ankle. So that right from here I can just put his knee down to the floor and then go right into a knee lever with the 2-on-1. So it doesn't have to be chest to chest, but most of the time it is. Yeah.
What's your favorite escape from front headlock?
From down in the turtle position?
Yeah.
There's a couple of different ones. Depends on what he does. If you're looking to just go back to guard, one of my favorite ones is the second he goes in, locks up. I like to start, if he has a chin strap, I'll peel the chin strap hand off and force him to go in and start locking hands. Because if he doesn't lock hands, then I just back away. So then I'll go in and lock his hands, and then I'll place my defensive hands in. And now from here, I can use a 2-on-1, where now I can just start sliding my right knee in and use the 2-on-1 to back out in the way. You can also use, if a lot of times I do is I go here and I threaten the guy, or I bait the guy to go into an anaconda right from here. And if he does, nope, just get an anaconda right from here. Then I'll drag out in the way. Or if you want to, if you just feel like you're stuck in this position, guy's not really doing anything, then I just 4-point out. And now I start using traditional wrestling escapes where I start moving. Usually he follows me up. And as we both get up, we end up here. And I just start circling out in the way with the elbow post. Yeah.
So is our front headlock system the same after they go to 4-point to try to stand on? Like, are you still trying to Olympic roll them, or?
No, it's more about putting the elbows back to the floor. So whenever I see a guy goes into a 4-point and I have front head, okay, from here the whole thing is I want to start pulling the hands so the elbows back down to the floor and putting body weight on them. Okay. You can't really go for Ghee because when you start unlocking your hands and making transitions, their backward momentum is always going to allow them to slip out because they're standing, so they're a lot more mobile now. So like if I try to go in and start going into guillotine here, he just backs away and I lose everything. So my whole thing is I keep the elbows nice and tight and I pull everything back towards my hips, like so. That now, whether I'm here, what I'm doing, I don't want to have the elbows wide and then he just ducks, he peeks behind me. So I either go here, front head, or I go short elbows on 2 triceps. Where you go 4-point. Now you have to peek out and move around. It's not going to happen from here. And I just play from my position. A lot of times what I do is I'll go here and I'll play with a wide elbow on one side. So when he goes in and tries to start peeking, he just gets hit with the guillotine, so I bait him into guillotine. Go back. Another thing I'll do from here is I'll just play with the short elbow. So if he tries to start coming out and moving to this side, then from here, I just go in and I just wait, just whip him down. So it's a little bit different strategy because the guy's a lot more mobile. The main thing is, if you're having trouble, just focus on putting the guy's elbows back down to the floor. My whole thing is whenever I get here, I don't really rush. I just keep the elbows nice and tight to the hips. So when he goes to start moving around from here, hard. And I just keep body weight, just keep moving everything down in the way until I can put him back down the turtle. And then, obviously, if the head does pop out, like if I'm here, and you feel like you're losing the guy, so if I'm here, I feel like I'm losing the guy. Right from here, the second I start pulling him down, his head come up. Bring your legs in. Good. If he starts pulling the head straight out, and you always, as that head moves away, this always gives you access as the upper body moves away from you. Always gives you access to the lower body. So a lot of times I'll be going for stuff like cradles, where the feet are in, and I feel like I can lose the guy's head. The second I lose the guy's head, up, sorry. But I just go in, or right on the legs again. So just the basic upper body, lower body dilemma, like everything else. Anybody else? Yeah.
So, like, if you're trying to learn a certain type of system, so like headlocks, at what like mastery level would you like focus on that before moving on to something else? So like right now, I have like a general understanding of most positions, not like a master level or anything like that. But when does the benefits, outweigh when to move on to something else?
Guard retention and escapes, pin escapes, submission escapes. So that way you're confident in your escapes, and that gives you the confidence to go for submissions, because even if you screw it up, you're going to end up in a bad spot and then just escape right away into an offensive cycle. But it's also, once you get good at those, I'm kind of draconian with making sure that people are good in the worst spots possible first. But once you get good at those, then it's really just a matter of preference. Obviously if you're competing, like leg locks are still pretty weak in the sport, so you can do leg locks, then you can move on to what's weak in the competition game at whatever level you're competing at. But the number one thing that kills progression is boredom. So if I tell you, hey, you need to get good at triangles, and you spend the next 1 year practicing triangles, you're like, I'm bored of triangles. And then the next thing you know, you're like, okay, well, I don't really want to learn triangles anymore. Then you miss a class here, you miss a class there, then the boredom takes over and you're just not training as much. So if maybe you come in and maybe you came to a seminar today, you're like, oh man, front headlock, I'm really interested in learning more on front headlock. But you were working on guard passing, maybe you're like, okay, I'm gonna start working on front headlock. So it really comes down to personal preference and what keeps you interested in the sport. Because boredom is the #1 inhibitor of progression. So after you get good at your defense, then just work on really just go into what you want to learn at that moment. Like for me, I'll work on something and then randomly one day I'll figure something out and be like, oh, there's more there. And I'll just work on a completely different system. Yeah.
What's your training regimen? Like, how do you roll hard a lot? I mean, drill a lot. What's
So we usually do about an hour to an hour and a half of drilling each session, and then about 45 minutes of rolling each session. So it's usually like almost twice as much drilling as there is rolling. 2 sessions a day, Monday to Friday, 1 session a day, Saturday and Sunday. And I usually try to do 1 harder roll a day. So I'll do rolls with guys who are blue, purple, brown belts, and just work on positions, work on stuff that I want to work on. And then I'll do 1 hard round with Giancarlo or Marigali or Luke per day. That's you can't do I can't just do every round every day with the best guys. So I try to do most of my rounds with guys who are far less better than I am, and then one hard round where you have a guy comparable skill. Probably the inside camping stuff that I just released. I just basically discovered that I could just lay on top of someone and make them carry body weight and not really have to do much, which is great because I'm not super athletic. Also great because I'm also nauseous all the time. So movement and high heart rate usually makes it worse. So when I can just make guys carry body weight and the work rate, have their work rate be 4 or 5 times as hard, then finally when they do get exhausted, they just end up chest to chest and half guard. So the camping stuff has really been a game changer for just my overall guard passing and just approach to the sport. As I get better, my matches have tend to get less and less exciting. I get more and more dominant, but the matches themselves are less exciting because there's less movement. Because the further I go in jiu-jitsu, the better I get, the less movement my partner has the ability to move less because I'm controlling the movement. My control game is getting a lot better. And the camping just took it to a new level. It looks like I'm just lying on top of the guy, but he's just getting exhausted holding my weight the entire time from bottom position. So.
Is that something that you were really doing and you recently found a video that it changed it? Something that you were already doing?
I was doing the low head camping before, but the detail, it wasn't one specific detail, but it was just the idea that I got from Hodger, who's been doing it in the Ghee for years. Didn't really work no Ghee when he couldn't really get it to work on me, and I was trying to do it to him and it didn't really work. So I had to completely change it. It's still the same position, but a lot different ideas and grips for no-gi. But it wasn't just a one detail. It was just the idea of, I was low head camping. I can also high head camp, and the combination between the two is what makes it really an effective position. So, not one small thing, but just the idea of that position.
You just said you train a lot with people who are worse than you. What's your system for getting the most out of that without just being the guy that gives the crap out of every person?
Work on the bad positions. The reason that you never really see me engaging competition is because I get submitted every day in training. I just work out of bad positions. If I'm training with a guy like Silas, who's he's a tough guy, probably a black belt in most gyms. He's our purple belt. He won Masters Worlds. He's just a tough, decently big guy. Just let him take my back. Let him put me in fully locked arm bars, fully locked heel hooks, fully locked back triangles. Let him put me in back triangles, and when I'm almost unconscious, I'm trying to fight out of it. So really just using the lower belts to expose your weaknesses. Because obviously if you go with someone who's way better than you, and you let them put you in a submission, they're just going to finish you. So then you don't really get anything out of the round, and they don't really get anything out of the round. You're just getting finished every time. They're just finishing you every time. But when you go with guys who aren't as experienced, I can go with Silas, and I let him put me in a back triangle, and then I fight out of it, and I'm oh, hey, by the way, the reason that you didn't finish me was because X, Y, Z. so that he gets the help. Then I get to work out of that position and go into offense. And the next time we train, he fixes X, Y, Z, and then we kind of just progress from there. So I'm helping him, he's helping me, and as his submissions get better, my submission escapes get better, and then eventually it works up to now I'm letting Luke put me in a fully locked back triangle, letting him take my back, and I'm working out of that. So you kind of just progress from there. If you just grab the trial guy white belt and you just beat the piss out of him, no one's really getting much from it besides you just feel awesome and that guy just feels like a piece of shit. But if you let yourself get put in bad positions, like dude, it's training. Like the whole reason you train is to win in competition. I'm not trying to win in training. I'm trying to get better in training so that I can do the things in competition. Yeah.
So obviously you made it to the top in no Ghee, and you always said that there's no money in Ghee, but do you ever consider taking the ground in Ghee and just dominate that area too?
So I wanted to start competing in the Ghee at Henzo's, and then I just started training in the Ghee. I trained in the Ghee for like a year with John, and I just didn't like it as much. Like I just didn't enjoy training in the Ghee as much as I did no Ghee. And then I did Nicholas Marigali's Worlds Camp with him, and I kind of was like, oh, this is kind of fun. Like I like doing this. And then like ADCC camp came around, so I got caught up with that. So I'm not opposed to competing in the Ghee. I'm definitely gonna start training in the Ghee a lot more once we open the school, because I want to be able to teach as good no Ghee as I can in the Ghee. But really right now I'm just trying to get my stomach better, which is still like shit. Like I haven't been able to do like hard rounds or really like do hard workouts at all since like early 2024, which is why I'm just like a skinny fat guy right now. Yeah, if my stomach gets better, I definitely want to start training in the Ghee, and I could do well in the Ghee. Like I've trained with Hodger in the Ghee, trained with Marigali in the Ghee, and like did fine with those guys. So if I started competing, I don't think it would be that much of an issue. It's just me being healthy enough to actually do it. Yeah.
How'd you develop a sort of a slower, methodical game with people like Jerry? People who are really fast. You always talk about your game is slower. You don't drop in for doubles like last doubles. You do that thing where you did to Mike. Like, how did you develop that in a room full of fast killers?
So there's two kinds of games. There's movement-based games and there's control-based games where you negate movement. For me, I am if we did any kind of like generic sport athletic test, that would fail miserably. Like I don't have a fast mile, like I don't have a fast 40, like I can't even cut back and forth because my ankles are so broken. I don't have a crazy vertical jump. Like I'm just like a regular guy. The one thing I have that I have an advantage of is I'm bigger than average. I'm a small heavyweight, but I'm bigger than average, like 6'2", like 230. So I'm a bigger than average person, and I'm pretty isometrically strong compared to most of the guys that I compete against. So that was just with my body type, to play a movement-based game is hard. Number one, and number two, the older you get, the more you'll have to transition from a movement-based game to a control-based game. Like when you're 45 years old, you can't expect yourself to be more athletic than the guy who's 25 years old or 21 years old. So as you get older, I always preferred a control-based game just because I was never that athletic. So instead of trying to make myself more athletic than the rest of the guys, I tried to make them less athletic than me by wedging them in place with body position and control-based movements. But then now, I'm 30, so I may as well be dead. Just turned 30. But now, as you get older, you need to start transitioning away from a movement-based game and more to a control-based game, so you can control the younger, more athletic people. For me, I was just never super athletic, and so control-based and pressure over time is what my game is like. Same with Hodger. Like Marcelo was a movement-based guy. Hodger was a control-based guy. Hodger's not athletic, but Hodger would have body positioning that was so precise that people just weren't able to move on him, and that's kind of where. I didn't really model my game after Hodger, but I just kind of fell into a position where I started to get bigger, and I was like, a control-based game is better. That being said, if I'm going against like big heavyweights, like a guy like Heike Jusila, whatever his name is in ADCC, I was like 210 and he was like 285. So when I go with guys who are that much bigger, who I know I'm going to have an overall strength disadvantage, but a power to weight advantage, then I change my game back into a movement-based game. So it's important that you understand and have both. Because when I go with guys who are my size or smaller, I can control their movements. If you're going with a guy who's 75 pounds heavier than you, or like training with Big Dan, when Dan wants to move, you're going to move. So instead of trying to control Dan, I just move around him, wedging him in place where I can, and then I have a power to weight advantage, so that over time, I'm making him move more. Well, he'll naturally get tired faster because he's carrying around so much more weight. So you have to have control and movement abilities, but I generally prefer control-based games.
Can I ask a follow-up? Do you often take time, you and John take time to think about people's strategy? It's a lot of strategy.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like,
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of strategy going into it. It's hard to find people who are able to radically change their game based on opponent. So most people have a game plan, and they'll go in with the game plan, and that's the game plan for the match. Me, when I go into a match, if I try to do something and I feel like I don't have one set game plan, I'm like, maybe this will work, maybe that'll work. Maybe if I go in with like 3 or 4 different game plan and contingencies, so if one thing doesn't work and I feel resistance, I just switch to another thing. So there's an overall strategy, but really trying to get most athletes to deviate from just what their game is actually harder than you think it would be. Yeah.
First of all, thank you for talking to us for so long. Congrats on the new school. It looks amazing.
Getting there.
And then, how are you feeling?
Well, I mean, the school's coming along. We should be open first week in August. So dealing with the city of Austin and permitting inspections was awesome. Yeah, good. I mean, I'm really right now, I'm just trying to get my stomach back to where it should be. Like I said, haven't been able to train even since like before the last ADCC. So I'm just like move around when I can. And then when I start to get too nauseous, I just kind of hang out. But just teaching and helping the guys. They have a couple big competitions coming up. Elena just signed with one, so just trying to get those guys ready for stuff. So I'm there every day, just helping and training when I can, but just trying to figure out what's going on with my belly ache.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
What's your pre-match routine?
So right before match?
Yeah.
So usually I come in, and for me, it's different for everyone. What I like to do is I like to arrive at the venue a little bit before I compete, just so I can walk around, get my eyes on everything, see how the venue is, see what the crowd's like, see what the lights are like, touch the mats, see how if they're smooth mats, if they're rough mats. I arrive a few hours beforehand so I can get a scope of everything. And then as I get closer to the match, I'm relaxed the whole time. Obviously, there's always going to be competition nerves, but my biggest thing is making a match as closely related as possible to an everyday training. All the things that are different in a match aren't the things that matter. The lights, the crowd, the music, people watching you, the cameras. The only thing that matters is that it's you and another human being across the mat, which is the same thing you do every day. And so my belief is that if you tried to solve a math problem after you were in a road rage incident, it would be much harder than if you tried to solve a math problem in a quiet room with no one bothering you. And so the more excited and the more amped up and the more anxious you are before a match, the harder it is to problem solve. And that's what Jiu-Jitsu is. It's dynamic problem solving. And so the more calm that you are and the more closely you can relate it to a normal day of training, the easier it will be. So I just go in, I'm very calm up until the warm-up. Once the warm-up starts, start to feel a little anxious, start to feel the nerves. That's why you do a hard warm-up. It gets you breathing, gets the nerves out, and then I calm it down, relax again, and then I just go out and I'm just like, another day of training. And I'm thinking clearly about what I need to do, and I'm not super anxious thinking about really anything else. So I just try to stay nice and calm before I go in, and then think about everything that I do as I'm competing. Yeah.
You're building out a system for something new, such as inside camping. What does your process look like of kind of addressing all the different things that come up and sort of documenting that for yourself and kind of keeping track of that? How do you build that system?
So the number one thing is you can't be afraid of failure, because when you try to do anything new, like this is, combining the outside or the outside camping with the inside camping, high head, low head, like it just doesn't exist in Jiu-Jitsu. And you don't really have any reference points of what you're trying to accomplish. So you have to be able to accept the fact that you're just going to go in for 2, 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks and just completely shit the bed, and everyone's going to invert into your legs and go into heel looks and stuff like that. Number one thing is you can't be afraid of failure. And don't be afraid of failure and be consistent with, I tried, to use Hodger's method that he used in the Ghee, no Ghee, and I'm like, this doesn't work. And even John dismissed it. He's like, your method's way better. And I was like, I feel like there's something there. So I just kept trying it. And then like 3 weeks later, I was like, okay, I got it. And then I like kind of went to John. I was like, this is the system, and this is where the grips are, yada yada. But just don't be afraid of failure. Keep persistent, and always ask yourself. Like for me, if someone hits a move on me, I always just put like a little check in my head. I'm like, okay, this guy hit this move on me. So the question is either in the roll. I can do it in the roll a lot of times, but a lot of people have to think back after the roll. At least after the roll, think back and say, he did this. What are the mechanical reasons that allowed him to do this? And once you have that answer, then you can reverse engineer it and say, okay, if he needs to achieve these mechanics, how can I prevent him from doing X, Y, Z? Okay, what's the mechanical answer to him to countering whatever he did mechanically to be able to invert or enter my legs or sweep me, whatever the case is. So you kind of just do it piece by piece, and then you say, okay, well, this guy was able to insert a butterfly hook here. How do I stop that? Okay, well, this guy was able to invert here. How do I stop that? And then you just piece everything together until you get to a situation where, okay, now the guy can't move underneath me, and he's carrying my body weight. And kind of just piece it together over the course of a month or two, or longer. Yeah.
What is one thing that you know now that you wish you knew as a white belt? And the second question would be, what was one bad habit that you have experienced or you've seen people develop at white or blue belt that was hardest to unlearn at a high level?
One thing I wish I knew as a white belt was just having a general vision of what I was trying to do. Like I would just, first of all, when I was a white belt, I mean, I'm not even like an old school guy, but like I started in 2011, basically, like the end, like very end of 2010, and my initial coach was a blue belt. So I had a blue belt was coaching me, and then he got his purple belt, and I was a blue belt, and then I met Gary, who was a brown belt, and then after that I met John. But for the first 3 years or so of my training, I was training under just like a random, like Miguel, which is like a random blue belt that was like somewhere in New Jersey, and so he was learning along with me. I wish that instead of learning moves, people would have taught me an understanding of the position and just general visions of what I'm trying to do in each position. Like, oh, the guy has an underhook from half guard, make sure you put a whizzer in. Like, that's a move. But it's like, okay, why am I doing this? And what am I actually trying to accomplish from each of these positions? So just having a vision of what you're trying to do definitely would have helped. Like, I just came in and just basically did the moves and like tried to beat people up. But if I had like a vision of what I was trying to accomplish, which is what John kind of instilled, was okay, an understanding of the underlying principles of the positions in the sport would be a big help. And one of the big mistakes that I see people make, number one, is that everyone's trying to win every round. Like, I don't try to win every round. I'm trying to learn new stuff every round. Like, it's great to be able to beat people up. Like, especially, obviously for me it's different because I'm trying to compete at a high level. But for me, it was like, no one cares what you do in the gym. Like, you can have the coolest rounds in the gym, and then you can go out and you can get, there's so many guys who are gym warriors who compete so well, who train so well in the gym, and they just go out and they lose to guys who have no business losing to. So for me, I'm just like, yeah, like you tap me in the gym, like go win ADCC. So obviously it was a little bit different for me. But still, if you're just trying to win every round, you're only going to get good at the things that you're good at. Like, you're only going to get better at the things you're already good at until you find guys who are forcing you into bad positions. And then most of the time when you're forced into bad positions, you have such anxiety about being in bad positions, just trying to explode out, and you don't actually learn anything anyways. So just experimenting. I think experimenting is the biggest thing in jiu-jitsu. Experimenting and not being afraid to fail. No one's making any money doing this, especially if you're not competing, which is probably most people in here, competing at the highest level. So just go in, experiment, don't be afraid to fail, and really think about what you're doing. Like, don't just come in and just go through the moves. Like, come in with like a set of long-term and short-term goals of what you're trying to accomplish. Like, if you come in and you train, everyone's going to get better, but time is always the X factor. It's not just can I get better, it's how can I get better in the shortest amount of time possible. It's like if I asked you, a question: if you could have Warren Buffett's wealth, but you also had to have his age, or you could be 15 years old with no money, most people would take 15 years old with no money because Warren Buffett has a few years left to live. Like, so it's like time is always the X factor for most things. So it's not just how can I get better, it's how can I be as good as possible in the shortest amount of time possible. And I think having a vision and experimentation is usually the two things that will help with that. Anybody else? Yeah.
As a smaller female in a obviously male-dominated sport, and most of my training partners are larger males who are higher level than me, how can I style my training or my roles to get the most out of it?
The easiest way for females to beat stronger males is lower body submissions. Anything upper body where your upper body is trying to fight their upper body, even with the back. Like if you try to strangle someone from the back and they just take a strong 2-on-1, you can just get stuck with a strong 2-on-1 forever. But when you start going into leg entanglements, number one, it keeps their weight off of you. Like if you have a cross ashigarami or any kind of 50-50, it stops them from putting their full weight onto you, and it makes it hard for their hands, their upper body, to access your hands and upper body. So it's not only your legs versus their legs, it's your legs and your arms versus their legs, and most of the time their hands are pretty much out of the equation. So the easiest way for females to deal with males is always lower body submissions. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah.
What do you do to warm up?
To warm up?
Yeah.
So usually if I'm gonna do it before a competition, so usually what I'll do is I'll just start just like with basic movement. I'll run around a little bit. Usually I'm like already nauseous, so I have to burp to like get my nausea out. So I run around. I do like some inversions to try to like get my stomach moving and warmed up. Do some Granby, some hip heists, and then we'll do defensive drills like me escaping from mount, escaping from side control. Then we'll do offensive drills where I'm attacking from guard passing, attacking from mount. If I'm, sometimes I have a submission plan beforehand, so I'm working on those submissions. And then we'll go into standing position after I'm warmed up, standing, hand fighting, shots, knee taps, stuff like that. So that's how I warm up before competition. Before class, we just warm up with the moves. So I stretch a little bit, if anything, and then John will start us off with some moves, and we'll use the class. So it's a pretty high-paced class, so we'll use the class to get warmed up, and then we'll go into rolls. Yeah.
Also, Matt, what do you do to better your game? Like, do you work out, lift?
Yeah, I lift like 3 or 4 times a week usually. Usually lift like 3 or 4 times a week. If I'm competing against a certain opponent, or like for ADCC, I have big tournaments, I will study tape on those guys. I have the luxury that nobody else in the world has really. I have John. So John just spends all day watching tape. So I just let John study most of the tape that I would have to watch if I didn't have John, and then he just brings in new stuff for us. So I kind of get to cheat. But for me, it's always, lifting outside the gym just to stay like physically as strong as I can. Studying matches if I have a specific match coming up. I watch a lot of the big name jiu-jitsu guys compete. Like if there's a flow show or a UFC event and guys are fighting, I'll watch them and study what their games are. Look at what they're good at, look at what they're bad at, stuff like that. Just so I have that, I can like record all that and remember a lot of the stuff that happened. And then just thinking about the sport. Like I don't just go home and just forget about it completely. Like there's always something that happens in training where I'm like, that shouldn't have happened, or I could make that better. And so from the time I leave training, basically until the time I go to sleep, I'll have like a little thing running in the back of my head. Like I need to work on this, I need to work on that, I need to work on this. So the next day I can go and I have like little notes in my head that I can, go in and remember for the next day to work on. Okay.
Aside from like attending class regularly, what do you feel is the best way to improve conditioning?
So conditioning is interesting because it's really not based around your VO2 max, which is what cardio is supposed to be. What conditioning is really just efficiency. Think about if you took a marathon runner, or think about if you took Floyd Mayweather and you made them do a 5-minute jiu-jitsu match. They would be 100% exhausted. He was actually a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, I did a 6-minute match where he tried to go as hard as he could, and I went like, you know, not super hard, but just kind of controlled him and beat him up. He was the reigning CrossFit world champion. He was a purple belt in Jiu Jitsu. We did a 6-minute match, and he almost had a heart attack. That was like literally the most fit person in the planet. And same thing, if you took a marathon runner, or you took me and you put me in a boxing match with Floyd for 5 minutes, I would be pretty tired. But if those guys did a 5-minute match with me, they would be exhausted. So it doesn't really come down to what your VO2 max is. It really comes down to how efficient you are. Efficiency gives you the illusion of cardio, which is why when you see me, like if I ran a mile right now, I would probably struggle to be under 7 minutes, which is like, you know, 6-something mile is like not impressive at all. But when you see me go against guys who historically have amazing cardio, like Roberto Jimenez, he's exhausted at the end of the match. It's not because of the fact that my cardio is so much better. It's that I'm so much more efficient that the work rate discrepancy in work rate is so different that he is working 3 or 4 or 5 times as hard as I am from each of these positions. So I don't care if your cardio, let's say your VO2 max is 20% better than mine, which is a stretch. If you're working 5 times as hard as me, 4 times as hard as me, you're gonna get tired like way faster than I am. So it's more about efficiency than it is actually improving your VO2 max, which naturally you can only do about, I think it's like 3%. With like EPOs, you can get like 15, 18, which is tangible. But even still, like Andre Galvao is known for his cardio. Like he just puts pressure on guys and fucking crushes them, and he breaks the guys in the match. He was 100% gassed at the end of our match, and I was like perfectly ready to go. Like he was carrying my body weight for 15 minutes straight, wasn't able to move, and was freaking out the whole time. And I was just lying on top of him with camping. So it really comes down to efficiency and work rate. So my whole thing is, I know that I'm better, and because I know that I'm better, I know that I'm more efficient. Because of the fact that I'm more efficient, there's never 1 to 2 minutes of the match where my work rate is higher. From the start of the match to the end of the match, my work rate is lower than my opponents, which naturally makes them tired a lot faster than I am. So instead of trying to improve your cardio, try to improve your efficiency. You'll make much more tangible gains just getting better at jiu-jitsu and you will trying to improve your cardio.
If you were a blue belt today and you didn't have John, what would homework look like for you?
A lot of tape study and fucking Gordon Ryan instructional, obviously. No, I think that, you know, now we have the luxury of such shared information. Like we have the internet, like you have guys, you know, before if you wanted to learn from, you know, a John Danaher or me, like it was a seminar. Like you had to come to a seminar that was in your area or had to travel to a seminar. Now you can just go on, like I have stuff on my YouTube for free. There's matches you can watch on Flow. Like, you know, even when I started, like Flow wasn't even really around. Like, if you wanted to watch ADCC matches, you had to like buy a DVD from like the dark web to like, you know, try to find the footage of that. So now you have all of the matches that are like pretty compiled into like a couple different spots. You have a lot of free information on YouTube, and you know, obviously you have instructionals, which, you know, for us, it's not, you know, most instructionals like, hey, here's some moves, whereas ours are so dense where we think of ours like a second teacher rather than just like, hey, here's 15 moves, try these. So it's like, you know, if you're studying one of my 10-hour instructionals, like you have to remember, this is not only my training, but this is a combination of John's 30 years of jiu-jitsu in conjunction with all the students packed into 10 hours. So it's not like you just watch it and you're like, oh, I'm a genius now. Like you have to go back and reference it, and you use the instructionals almost like a second instructor, so that you can couple it with what you're actually learning in person on a day-to-day basis. So a lot of tape study of the best guys. Like obviously, like if you're watching stuff on YouTube or Instagram, an easy stress test is how many times has this move worked in ADCC level competition or black belt worlds. If the answer is 0, it's probably a bullshit move. So you don't want to just like look at random Instagram moves like, oh, that flashy move looked cool, let me try that. Like if you've never seen anyone good use it, it's probably a shit move. But if you have like guys who are teaching stuff and you see stuff being used consistently at the highest levels across all weight divisions, all age divisions, both genders, then they're usually pretty solid moves, and those are the people who you should be following. Yeah.
Who's your favorite person to watch?
Me.
For jiu-jitsu?
I go to like watch. I remember I was competing against I think it's like Passion Audio or something, and I would watch his match against like Azaka Bayensi, and I was like, oh my god, this is like, I think they were just standing the whole time, or maybe I was competing against Hamlo and ADCC, or maybe it was Andre. I don't know who. I think it was maybe I was looking at Andre's matches before ADCC, and it was Andre against Hamlo, like just hitting each other at ACB or whatever it was for like 20 minutes. And I was like, this is so boring. And then like right under the suggested thing, it was like a match of mine, and I was like, fuck yeah. And I just like watched 3 of my matches, like, oh, I'm so sick. But anyone that's like that's dominant, over the course of like long amounts of time, like Hodger's always good to watch. Marcelo's always good to watch. Obviously me. Nicholas Margali's been killing people lately. So I think it's good to watch guys who are uber dominant. Like not guys, obviously you can get stuff from guys who are inconsistent too, like Tynan. Like Tynan he'll go in and he'll submit 7 out of 8 people in ADCC, and then he'll just lose to the random Russian guy in Kazakhstan. So, but you can you can learn a lot from both, because you can watch the guys who are dominant across, for years at a time, and you can also see the inconsistencies in the top athletes. So you can look at what they did wrong and what you don't want to do as an athlete. So you can get stuff from shitty jiu-jitsu and from good jiu-jitsu. You can say, okay, this guy did this and it cost him the match. Let me not do that, and let me do what the other guy did. So you can kind of get, it's like if you have like a drug addict friend, you're like, okay, I could be friends with this guy, but that's not what I want to do with my life. And if you have a guy who's a billionaire friend, you're like, okay, this is what I want to do with my life. So you can kind of get both from watching good guys and guys that are good but inconsistent. Yeah.
Competing against somebody that has a really good defensive guard, how do you decide whether you want to pass their guard or you want to enter their legs?
What kind of guards do they have? Like what kind? Just like a wiry kind of, just like. It depends a lot on what the rule set is, how much time I have left. There's a lot of X factors. So like if it's just a submission only rule set and I feel like I can't pass his guard, then I'll sit into legs and I'll use it to create back exposure, wherever the case is. If there's short time and I've tried for 15 minutes already or 10 minutes to pass the guy's guard and I couldn't, then I'll sit back into his legs. For me, I feel so confident in my passing now that I feel like I can melt most people if I just keep pressure on. And then a lot of times if you combine the two, it's not just am I going to pass his guard or am I going to sit back on his legs. Start putting heavy passing pressure on, and then when the frames come out of position and start to extend to push you away, that's when the legs become available because they move further away. So it's not just, don't just get caught up with, I'm going to pass this guy's guard, or I can't pass this guy's guard, so I'm going to leg lock him. Start to pass the guard, and as he goes to start pushing you away and framing, fall back on the legs and threaten him. The next time you go back in and you try to pass his guard, he knows, okay, the threat of the legs are there, so I won't push away as much. And because he's not pushing away as much, now the frames are starting to collapse towards him, and that makes passing easier. So there has to be a combination between passing and falling back on the legs. Yeah.
Who's your favorite competitor back in the Pride days?
The Pride days? Dude, I wasn't even born in the Pride days. I mean, Krokop was always good. Mark Coleman was always good. Chuck was fighting back then. He was always good. Shogun was good. There were so many good guys back then. I kind of got involved in the sport like after that. It was when I started to get in, started watching UFC. It was probably around the time that George fought Matt Serra the first time. So it was like a little bit, Pride was kind of moving out and UFC was kind of moving in. But all those guys over at Pride were all animals. The rule set was insane. Like there's some good fights over there. Krokop was good, yeah. Bob Sapp, another good one, just because of the sheer size of him. Anybody else? Yeah.
What is your favorite submission?
Probably this high-risk guillotine. In competition, my highest submission rate, if you look statistically at the submission I hit most, it's rear nakeds. But now in the gym, I've been teaching a lot of new back escape stuff. And it's like impossible to finish anybody in the gym, so I just like hate the back now. But the high wrist, there hasn't been a single person who's, this is the only submission, it's 100% submission rate if I get it locked in. So probably the high wrist has been like my tried and true. Like if you can get this position over the arm, like you're gonna finish pretty much everybody if you do it right.
How do you sleep?
Yeah, so with most guillotines, what you're looking to do is you're looking to roll through and to post on your partner's hips so they can't form a connection on the other side, and you can center your head. So with most guillotines, like if he just goes for an arm-in guillotine, for example, and I want to go into a conservative escape. So if he's locked on if he goes in, he goes for an arm-in guillotine from here, and he goes to lock in. What I want to do is as he goes to finish, I just roll all the way through and I hold those legs. So when we roll through it to the other side, I come up and I center my head, and he can't connect his legs to me. The problem is that when you try to do this with a high wrist, it actually allows him to set the hand better because you're rolling towards the shoulder. So I'm trying to dip my shoulder in. If he falls in this direction and goes into a roll, he falls with the direction I'm going with my shoulder, and it just makes everything tighter. So if I try to punch my hand through here, and it's not all the way through yet, and he goes into a defensive sit, it actually allows me to set my hand, come up. It actually allows me to set my hand much easier when he goes through the roll through. So his roll through actually aids me. So in almost every guillotine, if you're going to a conservative defensive roll, you roll to the side the head's trapped. It's the opposite when you're going for high wrist. When your partner puts you in a high wrist from here, and he goes to start setting it up, I can't go and reach over the shoulder. I can't do any of those things. If I roll here, it's just going to make it tighter. So what I do is I grab the elbow and I open my chin up towards the armpit. So when he goes to sit back and finish, I sit here, like so. So now when he goes to finish me, he can't do it. And now what you're going to have to do is you have to fight him from coming up into north-south and either move away and start wrestling up with an elbow pass, or at the very least bring your knees back to the inside and then put them back in guard. So instead of rolling this way, what I do is I grab the elbow and I turn and I sit out the other way. So when he goes to go in, and as he goes to finish me, we just sit here. And now as he goes to recover position, we're back up, we're wrestling, or we're playing guard. So it's the reason why it's so effective. Number one, it's just mechanically it's so tight. Number two, the defense that everyone thinks should work, which works for every other guillotine, doesn't work for this. It's the opposite way you have to go. So when someone puts you in a high wrist, if you try to go into the normal roll, it's just going to make it tighter. So the whole thing is you have to sit out the other way and pull the elbow open to turn the chin up to the ceiling. And that's what gets you out, not the basic roll through that most people do with normal guillotines.
Who's coming tomorrow?
Nice.
Okay. Let's do one or two more and then ask the rest tomorrow.
Yeah.
Are there any gym rules that you implement or follow to make sure that people aren't accidentally getting hurt with leg locks, maybe because they're inexperienced or they make a move the wrong way or they do something? Is there anything that you like implement to keep some of your guys?
With leg locks, yeah, we usually, what we usually do is we usually take it to breaking point. We usually extend it, but not hyperextend it. Like if I have an outside heel hook, do you have any ankle injuries or anything?
Nope, not yet.
If I have an outside heel hook on him, and I put everything in, I know that right here, he's on breaking point. If I go any further than this, he's gonna have to tap, okay? So what I'll do is, I'll say, we can take it to breaking point, but then we don't actually break the guy. So what I'll do, if I'm training with a high-level guy like John Carl or Luke or those guys, what I'll do is I'll put it in, he'll be defending, I'll take it to breaking point. And then right from here, I just give a small extension, and I take him to breaking point, and I don't take him past breaking point, I give him a chance to tap, all right? Then I let him work his way out, and he knows I could have finished him, I know I could have finished him, we kind of just do it like that. Same thing when we do the EBI armbar round, we take it to breaking point, but we don't take it, we don't hyperextend it. So if we're doing the armbar round, number one, it's just going into the movement slowly. So if I extend his arm, I get into the movement slowly, and I put him right on breaking point right about here. And now from here, I just let him work his way out. I take the pressure off a little bit, and then he works through so that I get my work. He knows I couldn't finish him. and then he works out from there. And this keeps the injury rate nice and low. What makes you good at submissions, the movement of any submission, or the enemy of any submission is movement. If you can create movement towards an escape, then you're a lot more likely to get out, which is why in my EBI match with Craig, I didn't tap because I was generating movement towards an escape the whole time. If you can hold someone in a static position for 3 to 5 seconds, you're almost guaranteed you're going to break them. So really, if I can hold him in an outside ashigurami or a heel hook and I have the locked up for 3 to 5 seconds, like, we should both know you could have got broke, okay, and now it's time to work out. So I'll submit guys, but I'll take them right to breaking point. And also I've been doing it so long, like I know exactly when the limbs are going to break, which not everybody does. But if you can just take it, it's not just holding it for 3 to 5 seconds, holding it on breaking point for 3 to 5 seconds is usually what we do. And the only way to really get good at this is to practice the mechanics in drilling so that you know how far you can take a leg. Like, I know exactly how far someone's leg can go before it's going to break. So when I lock up a submission, I know I can take it exactly to here, and this is breaking point. And the only way to get good at that is to just practice them and drill them over and over again. So that's kind of what we do for leg locks and just submissions in general. Yeah.
Can you just show some of your favorite, I guess, wrestle ups from side control or CPR?
Yeah, but most of them come off a basic shoulder and hip game. So if you're down, most of them come off a basic dilemma between shoulders and hips. So if he's on his knees, whenever I see his shoulders are coming forward beyond his hips, it's the perfect time for me to go in and start butterfly guard sweeps. Now, a lot of time I go into butterfly guard sweeps and I get him halfway over, but he lands on his knees. So he ends up like this. But now his head's so low that now I can come up and now I can snap the front head. So any kind of failed sumigashi where your head is higher than his allows you to snap. What starts happening from here is as I go to start pulling the head down, he starts aggressively backing away and clearing the collar tie and starts doing stuff like this. So as I go to start reaching for the head, he starts posturing up and everything starts moving away. The second I see that I start going to pull the head down and he goes to start pushing, what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll push the shoulders back. So that from here, as he pushes back into me, then I can snap the head, okay? Or if I feel that he moves so far back that the shoulders come beyond the hips, now we come in and we can flare across the double. So we play a basic dilemma between shoulders and hips. And there's tons of different things that we can do, but just the understanding of the position is if the shoulders are behind the hips, is the perfect time to take him backwards. If the shoulders are in front of the hips, it's the perfect time to pull him forward, whether it be into snaps or whether it be into butterfly sweeps, ashiguramis, things like that. Same thing with standing. If from here, I see that he's standing in front of me, if I can pull his weight onto his toes, now we can go in and we can pull him into all of my attacks. If I see that from here, I'm going to pull him and he goes to pull back and away, now we can go in, we can come up, and we can start going into all of our attacks in standing position. So if I see that the weight's leaning back onto the heels or forward onto the toes, or if their shoulders are in front of the hips or behind the hips, we pull our partner backwards, or pull our partner in towards us, or push them backwards and start going into attacks coming up. Make sense?